Raven Elise TV.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Raven and I'm back with a new video, finally. Yay! Thank you guys so much for being patient with me and bearing with me. I know I'm not on my regular video schedule right now, but of course I still have a new baby and I'm still adjusting to this whole YouTube mom life. Hopefully I will get it together soon. So I'm back with a new video today and I wanted to do a Q&A video. So I posted on Instagram and I asked you guys to ask me any questions that you guys might have had for me pertaining to being a new mom and any questions about Zaya and how I'm adjusting and things like that. And yes, I am in my apartment filming in my nice pretty filming setup for the first time. Finally, I get a chance to use my new setup and use my bedroom in my new apartment. So tell me what you think. Do you like it? What should I change? Do I need to fix anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I don't want this video to be too extremely long, so I'm just going to jump into the question. So the first question is, how long was Zaya when she was born, and how long before your leg numbness wore off? So if you guys watch my labor and delivery video, I explained that I did get an epidural, but the only thing that I really noticed that it did was make my right leg go numb. I didn't really notice that it took away any of the pain with the contractions or anything like that. I think in retrospect that it did actually help with some of the pain whenever I was pushing, but it did not help with my contractions at all, that's for sure. But it definitely made my right leg go numb, which was kind of scary. And so she was asking how long before the leg numbness wore off, and it actually lasted for like almost 24 hours afterwards, which was also why it was scary, because I literally could not walk. When the nurse came to check on me and she said, okay, well, the numbness should have worn off by now, she tried to help me up and I literally collapsed to the floor, like all the way to the floor, because I could not feel my leg. And so that was kind of scary, and it took a long time for it, like I want to say like the whole next day pretty much I was numb. And then she also asked how long was Zaya when she was born, because you guys know that me and her dad are both pretty tall, so I'm sure you're expecting her to be long, but she was actually average length. She was 21.5 inches, which is pretty average. The next question says, how did you come up with the name Zaya Rain? I kind of touched on this in one of my like pregnancy update, no, I think it was whenever like I announced the name initially, I kind of told y'all the story behind it. Basically, Zaya is like an Arabic word that basically means light or glow, and so I just really love that meaning behind it, and I just love the way it was spelled and the way that it sounded, so I chose the name Zaya. I found it online actually, just looking through like baby name websites, and yeah. And then Rain, her middle name, R-A-Y-N-E, is kind of a play off of my name and my nickname. People call me Ray, obviously, so R-A-Y. Also Chris's dad's name, and then also I like the idea of the word rain, like in terms of royalty, and also the word rain like in terms of nature. So just any way you look at it, I just liked kind of the combination of everything put together. Bonnie wants to know what camera I used for my maternity pics on Instagram. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you probably saw back when I was still pregnant, I posted a little maternity photo shoot where I did a milk bath with the flowers and everything, and that was just a really last minute photo shoot that I put together all by myself. I literally ran to the store, bought the stuff to set it up, bought the flowers and everything, and I used, she wants to know what camera I used. I used my Canon 70D, which is what I'm filming with right now. It works really well for filming and for pictures, obviously, so I just set up my tripod, set everything up myself, and I used my app on my phone, which lets you use it as a remote to actually take the picture. And so I kind of had to bootleg this whole thing where I had the camera on timer on my app, and I would press the button, and then I would put my phone to the side, and then I would pose, and then it would take the picture, and I just did that over and over again until I got the right picture. And then of course I kind of photoshopped it to make it look more professional in the end. Golden Kiss wants to know, she says, hopefully it's not too personal, but I'm worried about my cooch. I'm just wondering how they tell you to take care of it afterwards to help recover, because I'm thinking it won't be the same. Well, I think it's kind of a myth that your cooch is like never the same after giving birth. Obviously, it does go through some major changes, but it pretty much knows how to revert back to normal by itself. I mean, that's what the human body is made to do. So I wasn't really thinking that it's just gonna be completely stretched out and crazy afterwards. They gave me like antibacterial spray and like some wipes and some pads, and that's mostly really just for the bleeding that you experience afterwards. It makes it kind of a little bit painful at first to use the bathroom, so they give you some stuff to help with that, and then you just have pads because you're going to be bleeding for a while. Sorry if that grosses anyone out, but it's true. Trina wants to know how breastfeeding is going for me. So I kind of have a little story about my breastfeeding experience. I know I saw a lot of people asking about breastfeeding in general. Does it hurt? Have you had any problems? What made you decide to start breastfeeding in the first place? So just to kind of answer everyone's questions, I'll kind of give y'all my whole breastfeeding rundown really quick. So for me, breastfeeding was always my choice from the beginning. Like I knew, like as soon as I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna breastfeed, definitely. It was like no doubt about it, because it's just the natural way. It's the easiest way, honestly, and it's just what makes sense to me. Like my opinion is, unless you have like a medical or a serious reason why you cannot breastfeed, I don't see why you wouldn't breastfeed. It's just what's natural. I mean, that's what your boobs were made to do. So I never had any question about it. My mom breastfed me and all my siblings. My grandma breastfed her. I mean, in my family, it's normal. So I didn't really think anything of it. I know some women, maybe they don't breastfeed because they have to go back to work. So their baby is going to be in daycare, and obviously they're not going to be there to breastfeed, and maybe it's too hard to coordinate with pumping to always have milk put aside so that you can use the bottle, blah, blah, blah. I can see how that could be kind of hard logistics wise. But for me, obviously, I stay at home with Zaya all the time. I don't have to put her in daycare or anything like that. So it makes it a lot easier for me to breastfeed. And breastfeeding is just easier to me anyway, because I've had a little bit of experience with having to make a bottle, and it takes so much longer to prepare a bottle than to just pull your shirt down and put the baby on. Like, it's so much faster, it's so much easier. And obviously we all know that there's a ton of health benefits to breastfeeding rather than feeding your baby any type of formula. In terms of how it's going for me and the pain, I did have a painful experience where after about a week of breastfeeding, I noticed that I was having some chapped nipples and bleeding. Actually, I had a bit of a scare where one time after I got done breastfeeding Zaya, she spit up blood, and I thought that she was spitting up blood, but it was actually my own blood because my nipples were actually bleeding from being rubbed the wrong way. And that was actually pretty painful. I mean, it's not like out of this world pain or anything like that, but it's painful. I mean, you can imagine if you have little tiny cuts or abrasions on your nipples, which is a very sensitive place, it's pretty painful. So I went ahead and made an appointment with a lactation consultant, which is basically just like a breastfeeding expert, and I had like an hour-long consultation with her, and she basically evaluated Zaya's latch and what she was doing and maybe what I was doing wrong, and she gave me some tips and tricks on how to get her to latch on properly. Basically, you need to make sure that the baby has the breast and the nipple properly in their mouth, otherwise it's going to rub the wrong way on the hard roof of their mouth, and that's what's going to cause you to start bleeding, and that's what's going to cause it to be painful. Despite what anyone tells you, breastfeeding is not supposed to be painful at all. It's not normal for breastfeeding to just hurt. It's not. It might be a little uncomfortable. It might, you might have a little bit of soreness here and there, but it's not supposed to be painful overall. So if you experience pain, that means that there's something wrong. So that's what the lactation consultant was helping me with. And she gave me, a bunch of different tips and tricks and stuff. But overall, one of the main things that she told me was probably really going to help was to get Zaya's tongue tie lasered off. And I talked about this in my weekly vlog last week. But basically, Zaya's, the little tendon under your tongue, the little string thing, hers was really short and really tight, which was not really allowing her tongue to move properly. And so what they do is you take the baby to the dentist, and they have a laser which cuts it and releases the tongue to allow the tongue to move properly and therefore breastfeed properly. And at first I didn't want to do it. I was very skeptical of the procedure, but they reassured me that it was pretty much a painless procedure. It was very, simple. They do it tons of times, like very little could ever go wrong. So after after I did more research and they reassured me, I decided to go ahead and go through with the lasering of her tongue tie. And so we got that done. She cried for a little bit, but it really wasn't that bad. And once she healed from that, breastfeeding was a dream. Like, it totally fixed it, in my opinion. Probably a combination of getting that done and also learning the proper way to breastfeed in the first place. It kind of fixed it. So now when I breastfeed, it's completely painless. I haven't had any more issues since then, and it's going really well, and I really like it because of the bonding time and everything like that. And like I said, it's easier, it's healthier. Erica Butler says, Raven, you got the juice. Where in the world did your stomach go? Please tell us about your postpartum, and baby Zaya is so adorable. Well, thank you, first of all. My postpartum stomach situation really is nothing special. I know a lot of you guys have commented like, wow, your stomach went down so fast. What did you do? What's your trick? Tell us what you did. I didn't do anything, and I think a lot of you guys expected that, knowing my body type initially and the fact that I didn't really gain that much weight throughout my pregnancy in the first place. It pretty much gave me a really nice setup to be able to recover really fast afterwards. So I really did not do anything special. I did not use any waist trainers. I did not diet or exercise or anything like that. I just went about living my regular life, and I just so happened to go back to my normal stomach within like a week, which is, I know, pretty lucky, and not everyone has that experience. So unfortunately, I can't really give you any advice, but it's just my body type. Kay wants to know how often Zaya wakes up at night. As of now, she's a month old, so we've kind of gotten on a little bit of a schedule, of a routine. And I would say she wakes up approximately, well, okay, so pretty much bedtime is like around 9:30, and then she'll probably wake up at midnight, and then she'll wake up around 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and then finally she kind of wakes up for the day at 7. So really throughout the night she might wake up 3 times. Sometimes she really only wakes up twice, and she sleeps for a longer period of time. She's a pretty good sleeper. Like, I know a lot of babies, they might wake up every hour on the dot, or at least every 2 hours, but sometimes Zaya can literally sleep for 4 or 5 hours straight through with no problem. So I've been very lucky in that sense. Baby girl with 2 L's asked, was it hard for you to get used to having a child, like the crying and the diaper changing? And I saw a lot of similar questions like, how was my initial adjustment, or what was my initial kind of reaction to being thrown into motherhood, and the difficulty level of it. Obviously, I wouldn't say that it was easy or anything like that. Like, I'm not just gonna brush it off like, oh, it's a breeze. But it wasn't necessarily hard or difficult. I really think that motherly instincts are a very real thing, and like, as soon as your child is born, it's like something just clicks in your head, and suddenly you kind of just know what to do, and suddenly you're kind of just ready, and your brain is being put into mommy mode. At least that's how I felt. Like, literally the first day she was born, I had never had really any experience with little bitty babies. Like, I've had my little sister and I've had my little cousins, but I was never old enough to take care of them when they were really little, so I never really had that experience. It just clicked in my brain, and it was like, okay, diaper changing, breastfeeding, you know, knowing what to do when she's crying, blah blah blah. It kind of just clicked in my brain, so it was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. I guess I'll say that, because, you know, I was a bit anxious about it, but it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Does Zaya have any similar birthmarks that you had or her dad had? Zaya does have the same stork bites on her face that I had. Stork bites are like those red birthmarks that are either show up right here, around your nose, on your lip, or on the back of your neck. And Zaya actually has all of those. She has it here, 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 and here. And I know definitely when I was a baby, I had it on my forehead and my nose. I never checked my neck. Maybe I do have it on my neck. But she literally has the same exact one that I had on my forehead. They're kind of starting to fade away now. And typically those type of birthmarks like completely fade away by the time that you're like a kid. Mine didn't really fade away completely. Like I remember when I was like 13, it was still pretty visible. Aphrodite Aroma asks, now that you're a mother, what are some of your goals for your career and for your life in general? Now that I'm a mom, obviously things have changed. I've always been kind of a goal-oriented person, and I've always had different goals and stuff written down, but now that I'm a mom, it definitely changes things. It honestly doesn't change things too much though, because I still want to stay true to what I personally wanted to achieve. You know, those things are still important to me in terms of being a YouTuber, in terms of doing something with fashion later on down the road. So those goals are still in place. I would like to have a clothing line. I would like to take this YouTube thing as far as I can take it. But now that I'm a mom, I kind of think about it a little bit differently and what specifically I would like to do in those fields. I kind of have new ideas. I don't want to jinx anything yet, but yeah, I kind of still have the same goals. Obviously, really my biggest goal is just to be happy and healthy and have a happy and healthy baby, and therefore be the best mother that I can be. Makeup Addict XO95 says, what's the most challenging thing about motherhood or any sacrifices that you've had to make? So far, I mean, it's only been a month, so with me being a new mom, the most challenging, you know, sacrificial type thing, I guess, would have to just be with like filming. And like my daily routine is completely different now, and I don't have as much just personal freedom and downtime as I'm used to. I'm used to having a lot of just freedom and downtime and being able to do what I want when I want and just being on like no type of real schedule, but that is completely out the window now. So I really have to plan stuff out. I really have to prioritize. I have to like break things down day by day and just kind of set one goal per day, because I can't just do everything I want to do in one day anymore. So that's probably like the biggest like sacrifice that I've had to make so far. Love Madison XO asked, how was the recovery after giving birth? Did you have a lot of pain? I would say my recovery went pretty smoothly. They do tell you to expect some soreness for at least like a week or two, and they tell you to expect heavy bleeding, and then the bleeding will start to fade off, but it will pretty much last like 6 weeks altogether. For me, I was definitely sore for the first week, but I was mostly sore like all over my body, just from like tensing up during my contractions. I really didn't have like super bad soreness down there, but I did have soreness down there, definitely. It just wasn't like super bad. And then I definitely had the heavy bleeding that they told me to expect. But other than that, things started to go back to normal after about 7 or 8 days. And they also gave me some pain pills to take. So I took a couple of those. I honestly didn't really take the pain medication because I didn't really need it. And then the bleeding kind of started to fade off by maybe like day 12 or something like that. Really, I pretty much felt back to my normal self probably, like I said, around day 10 or 11. Nia Pia wants to know if I pooped on myself when I was giving birth, and no, I did not. DV asked, how is it adjusting to Zaya's sleep schedule? Like I said, she wakes up maybe like 3 times a night, and honestly it wasn't that hard for me to adjust to her sleep schedule because I personally have a terrible sleep schedule naturally anyway. Like I don't sleep well, I don't go to sleep early, I have a newborn sleep schedule myself, so I think that's why it wasn't really as hard for me to adjust to, you know, waking up in the night and stuff like that. And also she's a pretty good sleeper, like I said, so I didn't really struggle that much. Definitely like the first week or two I was definitely tired and fatigued because I had just given birth. But by like week 2, once I kind of like got in the swing of things, it really wasn't bad at all. And like currently right now, I wouldn't complain. Channy B says, hey Raven, I know this is a bit personal, but I wanted to know, as a first time mom, did you tear down below while giving birth? I'm due in 3 weeks and I am trying to prevent tearing. Well, I don't really personally know ways to prevent tearing. I guess that's something that you would have to talk to your doctor about. I actually did tear a little bit and I did have to get stitches. I didn't feel it when I teared, and I did not feel the stitches. Like I said, in retrospect, I do think that the epidural helped with that part. So it wasn't anything painful or major for me, and the recovery process for that didn't feel like anything. Like I didn't notice it, I didn't feel the stitches, and they're the kind of stitches that just like dissolve on their own. So at this point I'm pretty sure that they dissolved and I never felt it anyway. So a lot of people are asking if I plan on having any more kids in the future now that I have Zaya. You know, what is my whole thoughts on that? In theory, I would like for Zaya to have a sibling because I think being an only child is kind of sad. But after having Zaya and now that my head is actually in the game, I don't know if I can really see myself having more kids. I don't know. I just really can't think that far ahead right now because I just barely have this newborn and I'm so focused on her that I really can't think that far ahead into having more kids on top of that. And I don't know. Right now, I can't really see myself having more kids. It's kind of weird because I always pictured myself with more than one kid, but I'm not sure anymore. Avion wants to know how my mother feels about being a grandmother. And I think she absolutely loves it. Of course, I guess I should let her speak for herself, but if you ask me, I think that she is in love with being a grandmother. I know for a fact that she is definitely in love with Zaya. Like there's actually sometimes throughout the day when like I'll be holding Zaya or feeding her or something and my mom will come by and be like disappointed because she wants to like hold Zaya but I'm holding her, and so I think that she absolutely loves it. Andy Golden asked if I have experienced a poop explosion yet. Yes, I have. Approximately, probably about 3 times, like a really bad one, 3 times so far, where it just comes all out the side of the diaper and it's all over the onesie and it's all over the sheets. I have had to change the sheets like 6 times in the past like couple of weeks. Zaya was having some issues pooping at first. Like she kind of seemed like she was a little bit constipated, and then she figured out how to poop and now she's just pooping all over the place. She's like, I know how to poop, I'm gonna do it everywhere. Bo wants to know how my body overall has changed since giving birth. And like I said, obviously like my stomach went down pretty fast. I think my lady parts healed pretty good. But my body overall, nothing really, I mean, I don't really see any major differences. The only 2 differences that I really notice are A, my boobs are definitely bigger. Obviously breastfeeding, your boobs get bigger, blah blah blah, so I do notice a little bit more boobage going on. And then B, my tummy, although it did go back to its normal size, it did not go back to its normal color, if that makes sense. Like it's a little bit dark on my tummy area. Like if you compare it to like my arm versus my stomach is definitely kind of oddly darker just all over. I didn't get any stretch marks or anything like that, but it's just like it looks like I got a tan on my stomach. And the line that goes down from your belly button, which is called the linea nigra, before I kind of had like a little faint line that I just always had, but throughout pregnancy and still since having her, it definitely got a lot darker. So now it's like a dark brown line. And I know you guys have probably seen that on like pregnant women before. So I still have the dark brown line and just overall darkness on my stomach. I see a couple of people asking about Zaya's eye color because I know they kind of almost look like they're changing colors, or one day they might look gray, another day they might look green, and then they just look black in some pictures. Newborn babies, a lot of times their eye color doesn't develop for a few months. It takes a while for their true eye color to develop. I'm guessing that her eyes will eventually land on being some shade of brown, but right now they kind of look gray in certain lightings. Alyssa Forever 17 asked, how has my relationships with my close friends changed since having her and since just being pregnant in general? My relationship with my close friends hasn't changed at all, really. Only reason why my relationship has changed is from moving. Now that we're all separated from people graduating and from me moving back to Austin and blah blah blah, we're all kind of separated now. But we still have a group text, we still keep in contact like every single day. But in terms of me being pregnant and having Zaya, that in particular didn't really change our relationship. Like they were all extremely excited to find out that I was pregnant. They were all extremely supportive throughout my pregnancy. They were all extremely excited whenever she was born. They haven't gotten a chance to come and visit yet just because of all the craziness with like everything, but they will definitely be visiting soon and visiting often, I'm sure. Yeah, they're like Zaya's aunties, so they're down for me through whatever. I mean, that's what close friends are for. A couple of people wanted to know about the afterbirth, which is just talking about like the placenta and stuff like that. For me, I literally did not even notice whenever I was delivering the placenta or the afterbirth. Basically what happens is you give birth to the baby and then the umbilical cord is still connected on in there to the placenta, and then you have to get the placenta out as well. You literally don't notice it because during the time that you're delivering the placenta is when your baby is being placed on your chest for the first time. So you're so focused on seeing your baby for the first time that you're not thinking about anything that's going on down there. I literally delivered my placenta and got stitches, and I didn't even know that any of that happened because I was looking at Zaya and I was like, did I get stitches? I literally asked him right there, like, did I get stitches? And he was like, yeah, I just put a few stitches in, whatever. And I was like, oh, I didn't even like notice what you were doing. Lonnie wants to know if my birthing experience was how I expected it to be. And no, actually it wasn't. I mean, it kind of was, like certain parts, like obviously I know what happens when you give birth. I had done research, I had taken the class, I kind of geared myself up to know what to expect as much as I could. But once it actually happened, it was a lot different than I thought it would be, just in terms of the pain and the way that the epidural went and stuff like that. You guys can watch my labor and delivery video to, you know, hear the whole story of what happened. But yeah, it was a little bit different than I expected. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention in my labor and delivery story that I see some people asking about is about my water breaking. I never mentioned about my water breaking, but it broke in the hospital whenever I was like in active labor. Whenever my contractions were like getting to the top level of painful contractions, my water just naturally broke on its own. It was probably about, I want to say maybe within like about an hour before I started pushing, my water just broke on its own in the hospital bed. A lot of people are asking about my anxiety and depression overall, postpartum depression, things like that. How have I been? Have I had any struggles with that? Honestly, I really haven't had any struggles with it, and I really have not had postpartum depression, which is amazing because obviously if you already previously have anxiety and depression, you are more susceptible to having postpartum depression, but I didn't experience that. Honestly, for me, it's been a lot of happiness and joy and looking forward to every day with Zaya, so I really feel that my mood has been pretty stable and pretty good, which is awesome. XIXO wants to know, since I'm single now, do I plan on starting to date anytime soon, or do you think it's too soon? Maybe you'll start dating like when she's 1 year old. I haven't thought about that like at all. Like I just haven't thought about it. It's not what's important to me right now, so I guess I can't really answer the question. So probably not. I guess the answer will probably be no, I don't plan on dating anytime soon because that's just like so far out of my head right now. And last but not least, the big elephant in the room, the #1 most asked question is obviously about her dad, just all types of questions about her dad. You guys, if you really have been following me and if you watch my weekly vlogs and stuff like that, most of you kind of already know the situation, kind of already know the story behind it. But yes, I am single. I am a single mom, if you want to call it that, or whatever. Me and Zaya's dad are not together, and we are not planning on being together. We are not planning on getting back together or anything like that. So that's just that. Obviously, I want to try and respect his privacy as much as possible at this point because it is really hard to have your personal information blasted to the world without your permission, and I don't want to do that right now. So I know that a lot of you guys have a lot of questions for me in terms of my relationship with her dad and how's that going and how is it with co-parenting and how are you doing things by yourself and what is his involvement like. And you guys have a lot of questions, and I would love to be able to dive a little bit deeper into my experience and my story in order to be able to share that with you guys and maybe give you some advice and help you out, because I know that's really the main reason why a lot of you guys are asking questions is because you're in the same position right now. Like I got several comments where people were saying I'm currently pregnant and I'm not with her father, or I have a 1-month-old and we broke up and I just, I need advice. How are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. I understand that a lot of you guys are honestly just looking for advice and not really just trying to be messy. Of course, there are people who are just trying to be messy. And, I wish I could divulge a little bit more into it. But like I said, I do have to respect another person's privacy, and I do have to be a little bit more careful with how I share my personal life, especially now that Zaya is born. So that's why I'm kind of refraining from answering too many more questions at this point about it. Also because it's still extremely fresh for me. It's not even just fresh, I'm still going through it right now. Like, Zaya was just born and I'm still going through the whole motions of co-parenting and not being with her father. So it's almost like I'm not quite in a position to really even give advice in the first place because I'm still figuring it out. But it's just a really hard thing to navigate for right now. No, we are not together. We do not live together. We never lived together. We do not plan on living together. None of those things are in the works. All that's in the works right now is for us to co-parent separately but together, if that makes sense. He lives in a different city. Just because our child is now born, that does not mean that everything changes and we get back together and we move in together. That's not the case at all. I guess I would mostly just say, if you're interested in that part of the story, really just watch my weekly vlogs. I mean, that's kind of what they're there for also, is to just see my day-to-day life and how I'm adjusting and what I do on a day-to-day and what my life is like on a day-to-day basis. So if you kind of want to see how my journey goes, watch my journey. That's really all I can really say. I know there's a lot of different like rumors and different posts and he said this and she said that. Like, it's a lot of he said, she said going on with the whole situation, but just know that you guys do not know the whole story. You guys will probably never know the whole story. It's just something that you guys are gonna have to respect and just kind of watch my journey from here on out. Instead of asking questions about the past and trying to get the background story, I really think it's better and more helpful for you to watch my journey from here on out and see how I am currently dealing with it and how my future unfolds, if that makes sense. So give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and leave comments down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!